Okay. Good afternoon, colleagues, friends. Thanks so much for coming here. So today event is specific to the context of the Bhutan. So we work with Bhutan towards the carbon market readiness, and we have an excellent set of panel with Mr. Sonam. Maybe Mr. Sonam can take the floor. We have Ms. Sarah from the V20, Ms. Vicky Ong from the Singapore government. Thank you so much for colleagues for joining the stage. So just a quick round of introduction on the context setting. So today, the session is specifically towards about the Bhutan carbon market readiness. So we have three set of speakers, and we have one of the important activity, which is representing the carbon market readiness, which is the private sector, how it is happening in the context of Bhutan. So the session is divided into three halves. Like first, we'll be having the opening remarks from the managing director of V20, Ms. Sarah Jain, and then followed by what's the current status of Article 6 journey in Bhutan, and followed by Ms. Vicky will be specifically talking about the buyer context and the perspective, and then I'll be presenting about what we have done specific to the context of how the private sector is getting engaged and what is the potential which has been established in the country. So not taking much of time now, I would request Ms. Sarah to take the floor. Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's always a pleasure to have an avenue to talk about carbon markets. This is regarded as one of the super levers that by 2050 could unlock 20 billion US dollars annually for the CBF V20 countries. I must also mention that at the V20, we are truly excited about our ongoing collaboration with the Department of Environment and Climate Change. Here, I would like to acknowledge the leadership of Mr. Sonam Tashi, Director of DECC, whose vision has been instrumental in guiding Bhutan toward this new chapter of climate innovation and carbon market participation. Ladies and gentlemen, carbon markets hold immense potential as a building block for advancing national economic resilience, social equity, climate action, and biodiversity prosperity, while unlocking new streams of capital for countries facing the deepest climate funding gaps and the greatest climate vulnerability. Scaling carbon markets through high integrity projects and standardization could strengthen the bankability of nature and climate investment pipelines. Specifically, this could provide governments with additional revenue lines in exchange for emissions reductions from nature-based solutions, mitigation, resilience projects, and programs. On this note, we welcome Bhutan's carbon market policy, a demonstration of the country's commitment to participate in international carbon markets by developing the foundational rules, institutions, and infrastructure necessary to trade high-integrity carbon credits. This exemplifies Bhutan's carbon market leadership across the region and other CBF V20 member states. I'm truly excited to mention that Bhutan is also a pilot country under the V20 VCMI Carbon Market Access Program, which aims to support Bhutan's carbon market readiness. Furthermore, this is a feature of Bhutan's pioneering climate prosperity strategy called the Bhutan Resource Mobilization Plan under the Finance Ministry. We are excited on seeing the progress of this project, and we look forward to the completed report before the end of this year. We are also pleased to share that we have raised some additional resources to expand carbon market access programs to more member states, pursuing the climate prosperity agenda. As we know, CVF V20 countries have an abundance of natural resources and possess the necessary carbon sinks and opportunities for carbon reductions with development outcomes, making them ideally placed to host impactful carbon crediting projects. Yet the countries with the most to gain from carbon markets face uneven access to carbon finance and could benefit from its full potential. We must ensure that we build the specialized knowledge and tailored market structure and appropriate policies and regulations. At the V20, we are seeing an organic bloom of a practice and innovation exchange, and we think this is a huge opportunity to replicate and standardize across the membership. In the spirit of practice and innovation, the Expanded Market Access Program is designed to support more countries and is structured around 5 core pillars. One, country access strategies to support developing carbon market strategies tailored to a country's needs. Two, tools and guidance dissemination to help countries effectively share the different tools and guidance that their public and private sectors have come up with. Three, training and peer learning to facilitate information sharing, training, and peer-to-peer learning, which is considered the most effective way for countries to learn from each other's experiences, successes, and challenges. Four, rapid response technical and policy support to offer quick technical and policy assistance for specific issues, including support for project-related transactions. And lastly, market shaping and aggregation to improve market discovery and to improve price discovery and connect countries with major buyers, including corporations and G20 entities. The CVF V20 Secretariat will continue to work closely with DECC and the government of Bhutan, ensuring that the insights gathered through this initiative shape Bhutan's roadmap for carbon market readiness, including policy recommendations, capacity building plans, and a robust project pipeline for both compliance and voluntary markets. Once again, we are grateful to the leadership of Bhutan and their partnership. And as we move forward on this collective journey to ensure Bhutan's carbon market journey leads to meaningful, equitable, sustainable outcomes for its people and its environment, and we look forward again to being in Bhutan early next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah. With that, now I would request Mr. Sonam Tashi to take the floor, so to present the journey of what's there in the Bhutan carbon market. Yeah, thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Uma. Thank you, Uma and colleagues, and then from V20 for organizing this. Just want to acknowledge the support of V20, Director General Sarah's presence, and then Hamza, who's been a steadfast support of us while we're trying to scale up all this technical assistance and supporting us in this important part of high integrated carbon markets. I also want to just acknowledge and thank Vicky, with Singapore. She's been together. We've been I think before I assumed this post, and when I was at a technical level, we were some of the key counterparts negotiating the Singapore-Bhutan implementation agreement. And today seems to be like a day of market, starting from Singapore event to this one. And then I have my own commitments to the presidency to co-chair, co-facilitate the negotiation. So this really seems to be a day of markets. And I just want to thank everyone who's made time to be here. One, we just want to reassure everyone that we firmly believe that in the importance of Article 6 that can mobilize carbon finance, especially for emerging and developing economies. And obviously, this has to be supported by the right policies, incentives, and governance structures. Article 6 has the potential to decarbonize, and for Bhutan, this is important because as much as we say we are carbon neutral commitment, we are carbon negative right now, but the last mile decarbonization, economic decarbonization has to take place. So we import more fossil fuel than the clean energy we export. So this gives you an idea of the last mile decarbonization challenge that we have to work. We also acknowledge, and our reason for not being very active in the CDM days to now trying to be at the forefront and trying to get the market up and running, we acknowledge that this is important for us. Article 6 is not the answer to everything, but it is a key component of our climate strategy to generate development financing and by supporting a lot of mitigation activities and all, and what we call the mitigation co-benefits, ranging from the standard jobs, technology, to diversifying the economic base, and then creating economic opportunities and all there. And for the private sector, this to give them assurance, we have the carbon market, just immediately out to the policies that we have in beginning, we have the carbon market rules of 2023. Then the Bhutan Climate Fund was established in Dubai on the sidelines of the COP, and that is, again, just to quickly explain, is to aggregate carbon sales as well as to ensure compliance, and it is a seller carbon fund. I mean, generally you have a buyer carbon fund so far. So this may be first of its kind of a seller carbon fund. We built the national registry just to give an outline of the work we've been doing for our participation requirements. We have a positive list that has been just released. And then we have the carbon market framework to really build on the 23 rules and really to guide the entire development of the from the asset creation to the transaction to the compliance and to promoting the development of the markets. Again, another key component of our carbon Article 6 strategy was the implementation agreement with Singapore, which I mean I've already mentioned. One of my key, I mean, the fellow negotiators from the other side was Vicky and team, and then. The mitigation potential and carbon market assessment of this, which it has been published this year, really giving a landscape of what is the mitigation potential in Bhutan. It's a revision of the previous long-term strategy. I mean, part of the previous long-term strategy had different estimates based on different economic scenarios. Then we have a private sector engagement plan, and then the priority projects with the eligible methodologies and all are there in the pipeline. And then we've been also working through programs like this on how we build a nationwide capacity building, and not just in the private sector, but also within the government, because, and I think many of us know about these challenges, and if you all are there in the Article 6.4, I mean, you hear some interesting arguments why some rules have to change because there's not enough capacity. I mean, that's a debatable issue of membership on the supervisory body, but it just shows that capacity is a real challenge. For Article 6 in our part of the world, and through programs like this, we've been really working on how we can build the capacity, both the private and the private sector. I mean, the public and the private sector. We've also been working with civil society on. Because they are showing interest in a lot of small projects and all, which have benefits, especially in rural communities and all. And so this is where in a summary of what Bhutan has been doing so far, and then this engagement would have not been possible with Hamza and Sarah's support. We've also had Umar. Let me acknowledge him. I mean, he's taken the role of this tedious job of being of managing MC or moderator, what they call here. But he's an important consultant for us. We've been working with him. My colleagues have been working with him also, and it's been a two-way learning process. And I think Umar will agree that I mean, he shares knowledge with us, we share with him. So it's a joint partnership. You know what the 6.2 cooperative approach it should be about here. And again, just want to explain a few things that one, we want to reassure that the support that is being provided is important for us in terms in our journey towards the carbon markets. What we've realized is, as much as we may have the potential of asset creation alone is not enough. There is a lot of steps in this whole asset creation process, from the what they call the birth of an ITMO. I mean, to a transaction, to tracking it, and then to finally what happens as it moves around buyers and so on. Yeah. So again, I just want to thank everyone who is here for taking time off, and let's. I mean, I think then we can present more details as we discuss here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonam, for the inspiring words. As what Sonam has mentioned, obviously, it's like a kind of a wonderful journey for me also to learn a lot from when I'm working with the colleagues. So with this now, I would request Vicky to share the perspectives from the cooperative approach with Singapore.
Hi everyone. Thank you. Allow me to please thank the Royal Government of Bhutan for hosting this timely and important discussion on Bhutan's carbon market readiness, and for inviting Singapore to share our perspectives. In February this year, we signed the implementation agreement with Bhutan, and both teams have been working very hard to operationalize our agreement. This milestone reflects the strong partnerships between our countries and signals our shared ambition to advance high-integrity carbon markets. Since then, we have been making very good progress, and we are looking forward to sharing good updates this week. International collaboration unlocks wider mitigation opportunities that no country can realize alone. So for energy disadvantaged and resource-constrained countries like Singapore, Article 6 carbon markets is the way that we can decarbonize our industries and work towards a higher ambition global uh, sorry, broader range of carbon mitigation activities beyond our borders. At the same time, we know that carbon markets cooperation can bring greater benefits to our partners and it mobilizes climate finance as well as catalyze new mitigation activities as well as create new green jobs for the local communities. So we see this as a win-win that will be able to generate new greater economic opportunities for both Singapore and Bhutan, aside from the mitigation. My presentation today will share two things. The first, what Singapore thinks is important for us to scale carbon markets. And the next part is on what Singapore sees as important as a buyer country for the market. So the first is, how do we ensure the success of our implementation agreements? We do this in three key ways, and we will sum it up in three Ps: political commitment, predictability, and private sector partnership. The first on political commitment. Clear and sustained commitments from both host countries and buyer countries, anchored by our respective NDCs, is essential. So when governments like both Singapore and Bhutan, we can signal stability and long-term intention, it reassures investors and encourages private sector involvement. So for Singapore, we publish our international carbon markets framework, which provides a transparent and clear framework for Article 6 participation. So it also allows us to very clearly articulate our eligibility criteria for the market, and that gives broader certainty. In 2023, Bhutan also approved their carbon markets rules as the foundation for transparent carbon markets. Singapore is also working with our Singapore Cooperation Program, to build capacity and scale expertise on carbon markets together with our partners. The second is on predictability. A robust governance framework and transparent authorization process gives investors confidence that rules on approvals and corresponding adjustments are clear as well as stable. So that is the work that Bhutan and Singapore are working on at the moment. So we have already published our eligibility list under the implementation agreement, and I'm heartened by the developments in Bhutan as well, with the clear guidance that's set out in the Bhutan Carbon Market Policy 2025. The success of our implementation agreements depend not just on the governments, but lastly, it's really on active private sector participation. The private sector brings innovation, technical expertise, capital that are just essential for scaling carbon markets, as for scaling the projects that would deliver the genuine emissions reductions. By pairing public policy with private sector resources, we can scale Article 6, and we look forward to the opening of the application as soon as we can. So the next part I'm going to touch on is our experience as a buyer country. So Singapore hopes to send strong demand signals with our own procurement of carbon credits to meet our 2030 NDC. As a sovereign buyer, Singapore places very strong emphasis on transparency and high quality carbon credits that align with our requirements. We publish clear eligibility criteria, the requirements on alignment with Article 6 rules, and ensure engagement with our partners from the private sector. This helps to give developers and host countries certainty. We also take a portfolio approach, considering a diverse range of project types while ensuring each project type meets our eligibility criteria. Earlier this year, the Singapore government launched a request for proposal for nature-based carbon credits to support our NDC 2030. In September, we announced that Singapore will contract 2.175 million tons worth of Article 6 compliant credits sourced from 4 carefully chosen projects from Ghana, Peru, and Paraguay, with a total contract value of around 76 million Sing dollars. Just last month, at the end of October, MTI relaunched our second request for proposal that expands the scope beyond nature-based projects, and we also include today technology-based projects. This diversification supports a broader set of emissions reductions and removal solutions. So all in all, we hope that this helps to demonstrate our commitment to high standards while supporting a spread of project types and geographies. Lastly, to ensure the environmental integrity of the credits that Singapore purchases, we have recently appointed 3 carbon rating service providers, B0, Calyx Global, as well as Silvera. They will provide independent assessments of carbon credit methodologies and projects. This signals our commitment to science-based evaluations and gives both buyers and host countries greater confidence in the quality of the credits that we purchase. So to conclude, Singapore values our partnership with Bhutan, and we are committed to advancing high-integrity carbon markets that deliver real climate impact for the world. Strong partnerships between government, investors, and project developers are essential to scaling Article 6 carbon market as well as to accelerate our green transformation. So we encourage the private sector to explore opportunities across the growing carbon market ecosystem, from consultancy to project development, financing, and trading. And we look forward to our continued collaboration with Bhutan. Thank you.
So thanks to all the fellow panelists, and maybe before I get into the crux of today's discussion, so it is good to see that all the 3 panelists, they have mentioned on 3 important words: integrity, quality, buyers, and the private sector. So before I get into my point, I also wanted to thank from my side to V20 and to DECC for entrusting on us to work on this program. The program, what we are working is that we have seen from Mr. Sonam's intervention that the country has the positive list, country has the rules, country has the policy, registry, everything is in place. But what it is needed now to get the ball rolling. The ball rolling can happen only when you have a certain number of projects or identify the projects going on. So before, just to say on the point of the 3 rating agencies which Singapore is working, so we can also make the future rating agencies when they are going to come to Bhutan. We have analyzed around 72 parameters. So to come up with a list based on a top-down approach. The top-down approach is that we have the positive list for the country coming out of 8 different activities. With that, we have done the sectoral relevance, like the IPCC sectoral relevance, and then we gone into each and every individual activity level by talking to all the sectors in the country. Thanks to all the colleagues, I have seen some of the colleagues here, they must have really got not happy seeing me because I kind of always pester them with the data which it is needed on like 72 data for all the projects which are there in the sectors. And thanks to all the colleagues who have given us the information. And then we got into the classification of what can go into the compliance market, what can go into the voluntary market, because based on the market potential, so we can try to go into that. And then finally, we also got into the possibility of which methodology or which mechanism they can go for it. With that, what we have identified is that there is a potential for the country to tap upon around 36 million tons, which could come up in the country, but not that everything can find its way into the compliance market. So based on those 72 parameters, based on the market information, finally what we could see is that there is a potential of approximately 8.7 million tons which can be tapped in the first NDC period out of 88 different projects. So those 88 different projects come from multiple sectors like the energy, forestry, land use, agriculture, forestry, waste management, transport. So we have a detailed list. As a concluding, I would also mention that you can get in touch with us. We will be happy to provide that list, which can help the private sector if they are looking for any opportunities in Bhutan. So how we did it? So this is the 10 different kind of parameters which we have considered. So the first and foremost is that we understood about what is the conditional and the unconditional target in which the country can take the leap from. And then we got into the first important question: what can be authorized by the country? meaning we can have a multiple number of projects, but where these projects will find its way, whether it can go to the complaints market, whether it will go to the voluntary market, or even in the voluntary market, how corresponding adjustments are going to come in, and then what would be the cooperative approach which can be chosen into this. But right now the country has only one cooperative approach, but in future obviously the numbers will increase, and when the numbers will increase based on the sectors or based on the technologies, we can try to supply the credits accordingly. And then what would be the appropriate crediting mechanisms which can be used? It can find its way into the PACM or GCC or gold standard, Vera, etc. And then what would be the financial viability of these credits, and linked with the timeline. Let us say that if the project is going to come only in 2030, it doesn't make sense to put a priority to those projects right now. We can keep those projects in the next NDC, but focus upon the projects which can really now generate reductions for the first NDC period. So that's what we did. And then there are some innovative technologies which we can say that coming out of X sector, which is really additional, which everything is good, but we cannot do the MRV for those kind of technologies. So rather focusing on those technologies, ignore them, move ahead, and keep them as a low priority project. So that's the approach which we have taken. And then registry and tracking it so that the most important point of the tracking can be addressed upon. And the last and the most important point which we tried upon is on the environmental integrity and the additionality. Whether these 88 projects, how the additionality is going to be coming, how the environmental integrity is maintained. With that, we kind of made an internal assessment of the quality, which in which the project can find its way into what sort of market supply. So that's the 10 level kind of approach which we have done for the 72 parameters which we have. This gives the overview about the number of the projects which coming from each and every sector. Like for example, in the land use, we have around 18 projects, and in the energy, coming from renewable energy with storage, renewable energy without the storage, like the solar or the wind, because the wind energy is one of the first of its kind for the country, because there is no technology penetration in the country. Likewise, the waste to energy power plant, like there is no single waste to energy power plant in the country. And then on the agriculture specific to the AWD or the climate smart agriculture technologies. And the waste, how about having a biomining or the landfill gas technologies. And then the transportation specific to EV penetration or energy transition. Finally, followed by also Bhutan also has good amount of SMEs where how the energy efficiency can be brought into. So collectively, approximately we found around 88 projects for which we have the annual emission reductions, first NDC period emissions, the overall crediting period emissions, and the lifelong emissions. So this gives the potential in a way that when someone would like to invest in the country, so they can really no need to go around and secure the projects. The project is available. They can really get into the activity. So two important points which I wanted to mention is that on the infrastructure and the governance. So the country is well equipped right now. As we have mentioned, the policy is there in place. The rules are there in place. Registry is there in place. If there is an opportunity, they can speak to the DECC, and the projects can be developed. So even in the projects can be developed, the list is also there, so that can get a collaboration with the private sector between the Bhutan or by-side countries. So what we are trying to achieve is that we are trying to create a market which is well aligned on the two important aspects. One is the integrity, which can really generate verifiable emissions. So that's the overall approach which we have carried out. And then what's next for us? So we would be happy to work with various agencies on the capacity building, pilots implementation, refining the policies, because the policy what we have today might be needed to get amended for based on the practice which we work upon, and then what could be the technical and the financial support which can come to these kind of project activities, rather than working on a siloed approach, going globally in terms of working with multiple countries towards the cooperative approach. And then last but not the least, which are the sectors which can be really taken into consideration right now, so that the first NDC period target of whatever it is has to be achieved by the by countries can be achieved upon, rather than working on some of the projects which is like far-sighted and the emission reductions is going to take after 5 years or 6 years to be generated. So the final thing is that maybe I'll just go here once. The point is that the institution is ready, policy is ready, the conducive environment towards approving the projects, authorizing the projects, fee structure, everything is ready. So now the country is open for business with the Article 6. So it's like it's up to the seller country, sorry, the buy side, how they would like to get aligned with the Bhutan. So that's the point which we wanted to present here, and then we are happy to take some questions. Over to you, colleagues. Yes, yes, Kishore.
Thank you, Uma, and thank you, Mr. Sonam Tashi. So my name is Kishore Rajans. I'm from Global Carbon Council. I just wanted to, this is fantastic what Bhutan has achieved in limited period of time is already is a true leadership demonstrated to the world on operationalizing Article 6.2. I was wondering, you talked about the so also with Singapore, this agreement would definitely boost the Article 6.2 transactions, and that will be a learning lesson for the world. I'm just trying to understand. So when the registry is ready, the projects have already been identified, and the buyers are ready. Everything is. I wa- I just wanted to check, is that Bhutan will certify project at its own and issue the credit at its own, or are you also willing to work with the international GHG programs as well to be able to seek that capacity? So that is one thing which I wanted to check.
Thank you, Kishore. I mean, nice to see you. We sit together on the CATRAS, you know. No, no, we are open to, we are open to working with other independent standards, including, the one that you're heading, yeah. So, we are open, yeah. Yeah, yeah. We don't have any steadfast policy saying, no, we'll do it on our own. We are open to it. Anything that works for us and that gets us more projects, that's the key. And I think yours is important, right? It's the energy which is, we're really keen on that.
There is one thing which I forgot to mention in my intervention also. When we made the calculation, so we also kind of got into a point what could be the credits which can supply to the beyond value chain, because as what Ms. Sarah has mentioned specific to the V20 and the VCMI collaboration, the one of the important point is that we have so much of credits. It's not that all the credits will find its way into the compliance market, but what will we do for all those really additional projects? They can be supplied into the voluntary carbon market, specific towards the beyond value chain for the scope 3 emissions. So we have a very, to the last decimal, we have the calculation. If I'm not wrong, it is around 52 million tons, which can find its way into the BVCM. I think it's up to 2035. So approximately around 5 million credits can be tapped upon in the country. So it's like, as I mentioned, it's like how it can be done. That's the question now, which we are trying to work upon in the next steps. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pedro. I'm with Eco Securities, a project developer. But my question is about more. We heard a lot, but not only at COP, about implementation, operationalization, but also about Bhutan. The pipeline of projects, the ideas are very defined. But generally speaking, as a project developer, one of the biggest challenges is the capital, the investment that is needed. And today, the cost of capital to mobilize and invest in the projects at early stage is quite expensive because of the funding, the capital that is available. So my question here is, with the Bhutan Climate Fund, is there any potential vision for connecting with the Green Climate Fund that is also fostering private sector engagement and connecting Article 6 with concessional finance to scale up and kickstart this market? Or maybe other alternatives to reduce the cost of capital, because ultimately, if we reduce the cost of capital for the projects, that's more capital that's being deployed to the communities at the end of the day. Thank you very much, and congratulations to Bhutan.
Thanks, Pedro. No, that's exactly what the Bhutan Climate Fund we're looking at. First, we need to capitalize the fund. So that's another challenge in itself. No, one of the purpose of the fund is to reduce the cost of capital and to help in supporting especially smaller mitigation projects. You know? Obviously, we can't do big ones. The risk is too high. But no, that is one of the plans here.
Hi, Vicky here. The Singapore government, under the Economic Development Board, also has a grant. It's called the Carbon Project Development Grant, and it's meant to support early stage financing for nascent projects, for new projects. So I hope that's something that could be useful for you. Thank you.
So we have one more source of financing option.
Just one thing on the cost of capital. So the Green Climate Fund does have carbon credits coming out of the Red Plus. So that's now approved for certain countries that didn't get access in the first few rounds. But I think something to note, just to reduce the cost of capital and to see this more, is you wouldn't necessarily pursue the program just for carbon alone. The development outcomes, so the blending of the different sources, including especially this carbon fund that Bhutan is putting together, is critical. And also post the deal, looking at ways to maybe exit through a bond or through something, I think is also useful so that we can keep cycling. So I think the fund is a good way to sort of aggregate that opportunity.
Thank you. Any other reflections from the audience? So if not, then I have some question to the audience. So which is specifically listening to the 40 minutes of our thing. What would be your advice to us where we can improve towards getting to the next steps going further? Any reflections, any ideas, any concepts? We are open for business, and we wanted to learn from you also. Yeah, okay. Thank you. So I think we are on time. Maybe with this, I'll just give you two email IDs to bother. So as a conclusion, yes, we are country is ready for its business. The most important word is that it's open for the high integrity carbon markets. So that's the basic motivation to move further. With that, I would now give you two email IDs. So in case of anything and everything in the carbon markets, you can get in touch with the two colleagues who work on a daily basis. One is Mr. Dechen, other one is Langa. So he's not here. So you can get in touch with these two colleagues to receive as much as information specific to the Article 6 in the country. So with that, maybe I would say thank you. And just wanted to say that it's one of the beautiful country which I have always visiting, and I will keep visiting. I have the opportunity, so please feel free to develop the projects over there. Thank you.